All right, I would like to call this meeting to order, and I will ask Ms. Vandeven to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to our regular meeting. It's April 25th, 2022, notwithstanding the fact that it feels like it's the middle of January outside. But it's nice and warm in here, so welcome everybody. First thing on the agenda is to consider the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be moved or altered about our agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which contains routine matters that typically do not require board discussion. Individual board members may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion or separate action. Tonight, the consent agenda items are as follows. Approval of the minutes from our last regular board meeting held April 11th, 2022. Approval of various personnel recommendations, accepting donations totaling $8,700. Approval of the para-educator master contract for 2021 through 2023. Approval of the transportation contract with First Student, Inc., and approval of the bill vouchers and Capital One entries as listed in the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Martha and I would like to just pull off the approval of the transportation contract just to get a couple comments on it. Nothing controversial, but if we could pull that off to the
That's fine.
Old business.
We'll consider that in old business.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any other discussion? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the superintendent's report on excellence. Dr. Fleischer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of really key points of great news for students and the community. First, the Orono speech team sent 2 students to the state tournament this past weekend. At the end of the preliminary competition, 8th grader McKenna Monger ranks 12th in dramatic interpretation, and sophomore Emily Middleton ranked 13th in creative expression. Although the top 8 competitors move on to the finals, we're incredibly proud of these rankings. As you can see, this team is young and already built a fantastic foundation for success for years to come, and we thank Barb Schaffner, our head speech coach, who's led the team through a fantastic season. Last week, Orono High School hosted their junior and senior award nights. During the junior program, the following 5 students were surprised with book awards. Dartmouth Book Award, Nora Chouinard. Harvard Book Award, Michael Rasher. Yale University Book Award, Caleb Vaughn. St. Lawrence Book Award, Roxy Nessett. And Bowdoin Book Award, Francis Edward Hughes. Congratulations to all of our students on their pursuit of excellence. On Tuesday, May 3rd, is the Community Wellness Expo, which is a reimagined event that includes empty bowls and family service night, along with many other wellness activities for families and students of all ages. We would invite the community. The organizers are also looking for both volunteers and donations to make the event all it can be and what they're hoping. Our website news includes a link to sign up for any of these opportunities. And last, Matthias Mall of the Orono boys tennis team was highlighted in a recent Star Tribune article, if you saw that. He and many of his teammates competed on our state championship boys soccer and table tennis team, so they're hoping for a triple crown with any kind of a win in terms of boys state tennis. So stay tuned. And that includes my report for the evening.
All right. Any questions for Dr. Fleischer? Actually, I have a couple that might be addressed later in the meeting. Any update on the Orono Action Legislature? I don't know if we're going to hear that from one of our board members.
Sure. I'm happy to update the board. Regarding the legislature, as you know, the legislature walked back into session in this last week. They have to reconcile the House and Senate, I would say significant gap. Very far apart on those omnibus bill between House and Senate. We know that May 23rd is the constitutional adjournment date, so we are awaiting news. to see what happens in terms of any additional funding. Orono Action has been busy this entire winter and spring season working with our legislatures.
And how about the tech referendum? Is there anything updates on that, or?
Yes, and we may talk about it in facilities and finance. I would say we have a facility and finance meeting coming up this next week. But regarding the tech levy, again, our facilities and finance committee has been working hard all year long on studying that, and we anticipate that we'll bring forward the technology levy renewal for your consideration for the full board on the May 9th board meeting.
Excellent. Any other questions for Dr. Fleischer? Thank you very, very much. All right, with that, we'll move on to board members' questions and comments, an opportunity for board members to update each other on committee activities and other items of mutual interest. We'll start on this side of the dial today with Ms. Wallander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week I was able to attend an Orono Ice Arena board meeting. They are wrapping up their spring ice arena activities and getting very booked for the summer. It continues to be very popular, so that's very good. They have a good amount of reserves on hand right now for maintenance. It looked like we might have had to spend some money on that maintenance because they were having some flooding issues, but they discovered that just with minor time changes due to power outages, the water softener was no longer running at night. It was running during the day. And so fortunately that did not cost money to fix. They reset that timer. So good news on that front. You hate to think about how that could have turned out.
If they all could be that easy.
I know, right? And then I also was able to attend the Orono Early Learning Parent Group meeting, and those are back in person now, which is really fun. We're getting back into the Discovery Center. Weather, unfortunately, postponed their spring cleanup of the backyard. Not surprising, but look for details to come in May because they are looking for a group of people who will be friends of the backyard, who are interested in gardening and nature things, who can engage that community and help them out so those little kids can get outside and do all of their learning that they're doing back in that area. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Barrett?
Two things to report on. One is the policy committee, which you will see more of our work later tonight. The other thing is I attended the annual meeting of the Metro ECSU. Got my initials right. SU. And what that is, it's a service cooperative. There are 9 of them in the state. They are geographic service cooperatives. The one that we're part of is the Metro ECSU. And it provides sort of a lot of back office kind of stuff that's available for school districts. And so a little bit about the Metro one. It has its board consists of 4 elected school board. There's 24 school districts that are part of this and 9 other associated organizations ranging from a private school to 287 to some other groups like that. But 24 school districts are the primary owners of this. Its executive board consists of 4 elected school board members, 3 superintendents that are appointed, and 3 citizens from the metro area that are appointed to the board. Its brand new executive director is John Schultz, who is the prior Hopkins and Edina superintendent. And I think just the energy and the tone was very different than what it has been in the past. So I think that was a really good choice that their board made in hiring him. He started sometime last fall, so I think that's really good. They do everything from, they've got a cooperative purchasing program that, where they've gone out and get bids on stuff that we can just buy into if we want. They've got a big facilities, well, not a big, a component of facilities consulting business where they're helping people get boiler licenses. I mean, just the kind of stuff for school districts that need that type of thing. But they do an awful lot of professional development is their biggest area, a lot of special ed professional development, but just they're out getting grants and other funding to be able to do all sorts of professional development for staff across the metro area. It's really kind of, the diversity of what they do is pretty impressive. The cost for us is going up. Gotta let you know this, Jim. And this is not a big cost to this. Their basic fee is going from $700 to $1,000 per district, and it's going from 90 cents to $1 per student. There's a cap that used to be 10,000 and now is going to 11,000. So I didn't do our math to figure out what it is, but we're not at the cap. But again, this is, Anoka Hennepin, the biggest school district in the state, is part of this, as well as, again, it's a metro, geographically, it's a metro group. Another one of these is Sourcewell, which was the organization that ended up absorbing Ties several years ago. So they came up with a cooler name than Metro SQ. But so anyway, this was the annual board meeting that they invite all of the members to participate in, and it was a good experience.
Awesome. Great, thank you. Ms. Vandeven?
Just a question of Mike, does Sourcewell still exist?
Oh, yes.
So you're still on that board?
Oh, no. So Sourcewell, and actually Metro,
Bought out,
they absorbed. Because they didn't write any checks. They absorbed Ties.
okay,
And so they are, they continued, and so the Ties board dissolved.
yes.
Ties dissolved.
Yeah.
And whatever money was left when Ties sold its building went back to the member districts. So Ties Ties doesn't exist anymore. That's,
Right.
that money went back to the metro districts. And then Sourcewell is providing what Ties was doing, and they've obviously changed it since then. But no, I'm not on that board.
Are we a member of Sourcewell still?
I presume I'm sure we still provide some
Okay.
services
Thank
from
you.
them, yeah.
Thank you. Other than, also I was with Mike on the policy committee, so I have no other updates for as of today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Borchers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have three quick updates. I attended on April 12th, the SPA meeting, the Spartan Parent Association, the high school parents. And they, given the time of year, talked a lot about the prom and senior party and looking for, their board is pretty much filled up for next year, which is great. They've done some nice succession planning, but always looking for new volunteers. And then on the following Tuesday, I went to the Orono Foundation board meeting, which was great. And they're, of course, focused 100% on the bash, which is this Saturday on April 30th. And they talked, I don't want to give anything away, but it sounds like they've got some good entertainment. And then the last thing I just wanted to highlight, which dovetails nicely into community ed because it's through them. I spent my Saturday in Cottage Grove in their middle school doing Destination Imagination. I didn't do it, of course. The kids were doing it. And it was just such a great way. It's such a great program for kids to compete in creative, I would call STEAM activities that is, they can compete in a way that's not athletics. And so it was just really, it's always really great to see these incredible kids from all over showing their stuff. So I just wanted to highlight that. That concludes my report.
And
Were you
was
there?
there some success?
Yes, our little team, I don't know, there's 2 Orono teams, I believe. I'm not sure how the other team did. Our team placed second in the category they're in. So they will go to globals in Kansas City.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations. That's
So,
great.
so, Sarah, were you there as a parent or as a?
not a
as
coach,
judge?
just a parent.
Okay.
But I was a door monitor for a little while too, so.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Howe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. I don't believe I have anything to add either. So we'll move right on to our old business. First item of which is to take action on our 2023-2024 academic calendar. So I would entertain a motion to approve said calendar.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Assume
No,
Sarah
no,
has
no
quiet
mistakes.
expected.
No, I was just saying when Sarah approved it, it was like, oh my God.
If there is no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so we also are taking action on some policies that we had our first reading of last time. I don't know who wants to introduce those. I guess we walked through them last time, so I don't know that we need to spend any more time on them. I presume that all the comments that were passed along have been incorporated. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the 400 series policies as listed. 401, 402, 403, 404, 405, 406, 407, and 408. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and I just want to add my gratitude once again to the policy committee. You guys have been slogging through it. It's a lot of work, and we really appreciate the work you're putting in on this. Very thoughtful changes being made, and keeping us in line with various legal changes that have happened over the past 10 years. All right, we moved this student transportation services agreement to the old business, so I would ask Mr. Westrom to maybe give us some background on it.
Well, I believe I'm on, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm happy to share with you this evening and seek your approval of an extension to our contract with First Student for providing transportation. In 2018, the district went out to bid for transportation services, and we actually received a very favorable rate and entered into a favorable contract with First Student. And then since that time, you probably know that the district acquired a transportation garage and renegotiated that contract, and the contract was set to expire as of July 31st, 2022. I think it was a wise and prudent investment to purchase the bus garage because it made the negotiations with First Student at this point come up with very favorable results for the district. So, as you're aware, the Facility and Finance Committee of the school board spent a great deal of time strategizing and looking at our current rates, looking at the rates of neighboring districts, and we saw that we were in the market. However, we did notice that it did provide an opportunity because we're with one transportation provider, and they provide both our regular to and from school transportation as well as our special transportation, to look at those rates and make sure that we were paying comparable rates. One of the benefits of having Dr. Fletcher on the negotiations is she's intimately familiar with special education funding. And what we were able to do is we were able to work with First Student to come up with a rate adjustment to be more reflective of the market value of those services, at the same time maximizing the state's reimbursement of our transportation. So you'll see within your packet that even though the rate increases are slightly higher than what we would normally project, the actual cost to the district is going to be close to 6% in the first 2 years of the contract, and then drop down to about 3% in the subsequent 2 years. So with that, if any of the Finance and Facility Committee members would like to make any remarks, I think we're coming in to this contract and with a recommendation that will position the district quite well. So.
I'd like to just add that one of the things that you added to the conversation, which I thought was beneficial to the health of the board going forward, is that sort of the idea of we don't want to leave a board 3-4 years from now holding a bag, getting a great rate at the beginning to have a big issue later. And so that's why part of the reason why it's staggered the way it is. We're trying to do our best to make sure future boards are put in as good of a position as they possibly can be.
And I think along that line, I mean, that's partly why any place you drive these days, you see people advertising for drivers, high pay rates, big sign-on bonuses. So these numbers are not surprising that they've gone up. And what you see that this is the 2 years with the 2-year option. We can hope that maybe if that has slowed down 2 years from now, that we have the option of maybe mitigating those further, or if it's still bad, we've got those prices locked in for years 3 and 4, if that's what we want to do. So we think this is kind of gives us the best of both worlds, but acknowledging the reality that we're in today of the challenge of getting bus drivers. And I think also, as Jim has talked about, First Student has done an outstanding job of getting us bus drivers. I mean, you've heard about other districts that have not been able to pick up kids. The kids wait at the bus stop and the bus doesn't show up. And they've been able, as necessary, to bring drivers into the district, and that's worth something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I too just want to say thank you very much to Mr. Westrom and to Dr. Flesher. I think that this is, in this today's economy and in today's market and employment, this is a wonderful contract. I think that we're lucky to have this for our children. Thank you.
Here, I was expecting a lot bigger increases in light of the inflationary forces that we've got, particularly in transportation right now. So, excellent job.
Thank you.
Yes.
With that, other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve this contract.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And again, thank you very much for a great job.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you for pulling that out. It did deserve special
Yeah.
attention, so appreciate that very much. Any other old business that needs to come before the meeting? All right, we will move on to new business, which involves more policies. Is it the balance of the 400 series? I think it might be.
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
So I will let you introduce it, Dr. Flesher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the balance of the 400 policy series, I invite Dr. Scott Alger, Executive Director of Human Resources, and Dr. Aaron Ruland, Executive Director of Learning and Accountability, to the board table for discussion and brief remarks regarding the 13 board policies in the 400 series for your review. These include Policy 413, Drug and Alcohol Testing, 414, Chemical Use and Abuse, 415, Drug-Free Workplace, Drug-Free School, 416, Tobacco-Free Environment, 417, Students and Employees with Sexually Transmitted Infections and Diseases and Other Communicable Diseases and Infectious Conditions, 418, Gifts to Employees and School Board Members, 419, Employee Publications, Instructional Materials, Inventions and Creations, Policy 420, Employee-Student Relationships, 421, License Status, 422, Acceptable Use of Electronic Technologies, Personnel, 423, Employee Reimbursement, Policy 424, Conflict of Interest, and Policy 425, Donations to athletic teams, coaches, or other staff. We also included, for your assistance, thank you, Abby Schoenberg, for some different numbering system as you look at both the previous policy as well as news policy. And I'll turn it over to Doctors Aaron and Ruland, or Doctors Ruland and Alger, to explain further. And again, thank you, them and everyone else, for their work.
Thank you, Dr. Flesher, members of the board, Mr. Chair. You're going to hear us describe policies tonight that have some minor changes in them. There are a few that have more substantive changes. And then there are, as Dr. Flesher mentioned, some renumbering, and I'll name those, but they are in your reference guide. There's 13 policies, again, for tonight's meeting, so this is quite a few. So Dr. Alger and I are splitting those for the presentation portion of tonight. So the policies I'll be summarizing include important legal requirements pertaining to tobacco, drug, and alcohol regulations for our workplace, for our workers, as well as on school grounds. Policies 413, 414, 415, and 417 include only minor or no recommended changes. But the numbers will be changed as follows to align with MSBA policies. And you may recall that we're aligning with MSBA policies to make subsequent policy changes more aligned with statute, federal law and state statute. So it'll make it easier and more aligned as we move forward. So policy 413, drug and alcohol testing, would become policy 416. Policy 414, chemical use and abuse, would become policy 417. Policy 415, drug-free workplace, drug-free school, would become policy 418. And policy 417, students and employees with sexually transmitted infections and diseases, would become policy 420. So two of the policies I'm summarizing tonight include more substantive changes. Policy 416, tobacco-free environment, would become policy 419. But additionally, the policy committee is recommending changing the title to align with the MSBA policy, which reflects changes in tobacco-related products, including electronic delivery devices and vaping awareness and prevention instruction. This is something that we've been working on as an organization, so our practices absolutely align with this title change. There's also substantive changes in the policy to reflect that as well. So we are well aligned with this already. This is just making sure the language aligns with those practices. The other policy that I'm summarizing tonight is policy 422, acceptable use of electronic technologies for personnel. We're recommending, the policy committee is recommending that that policy is eliminated. This policy is redundant. It does not exist in MSBA model policies, and it's covered by other policies, including specifically Board Policy 518, Internet Acceptable Use and Safety. So all the provisions in this policy were already addressed in those other policies. So that's what I have tonight. I'll turn it over to Dr. Alger to summarize the remaining 400 policy series for tonight.
Thank you, board members, Dr. Flesher, Mr. Chair. I'm going to review 8 policies pertaining to rules and guidelines for employees. There are very few substantive changes needed in any of these policies, but I will have a couple of comments. Policy 418, gifts to employees and school board members, would become policy 421. Policy 419 is employee publications, instructional materials, inventions, and creations. That would become policy 427. Policy 420, employee-student relationships, would become policy 423. And none of those first 3 policies would include any major changes. Policy 421, license status, would become policy 424. And I would note here that where the Minnesota Department of Education has historically been the educator licensing agency in the state of Minnesota, that was recently assigned to the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. So that agency's identification is now listed in the policy. Policy 424 reflects that change. Policy 422, acceptable use of electronic technologies, personnel. The committee recommends eliminating this policy because there is no correlating MSBA policy, and furthermore, that policy stipulations were redundant to guidelines found in other policies. Policy 423, expense reimbursement, would become policy 422. Policy 424, conflict of interest, would become policy 428. While this is not a required policy, the committee felt it was prudent to keep it in place at this time. However, the committee is recommending that an appeal process for any potentially disciplined parties would be removed from the policy that we move forward. And policy 425, the final policy that we're reviewing and bringing to you tonight, donations to athletic teams, coaches, or other staff. The committee is recommending that this policy remain in place with the same number. We point out that the policy is not required, but the committee feels that it aligns with recent work done by the district in this area, and that it's also prudent to maintain the policy. And that concludes our review and presentation of these policies for your first reading tonight.
I was just curious about the removal of the appeal process in that.
We took that out primarily because it's a procedure rather than a policy.
Got it.
And so that's why it came out.
Okay.
Not that we're against appeals, but it was a procedure, and that's what we've tried to focus on, making sure that we.
Makes sense, yeah.
There are other avenues for
Sure.
that.
And I would just, a slightly different set of words than what Dr. Alger used on when we talk about a policy being required, I think it's that it's not in the MSBA group of policy. Yeah, I don't think there's not a state statute that's probably not quite, required may not quite be the right word. I would say it's in there.
Even though some of our policies are required.
Are required by,
By state
most
law.
of what our policies are amazingly word for word out of state statute. I mean, it is, these people go to St. Paul and they just write stuff for school districts to do, page after page after page, which of course is exactly what ends up in our policies.
Right.
I mean, in incredible detail.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where our policies come from, is many of it word for word from state statute, so.
Any other questions, comments? Now, we're not taking action on these tonight, though these are for our first reading and for our consideration over the next couple of weeks. And if people have comments or questions, I assume policy committee members or Superintendent Flesher would be more than happy to take our comments. So thank you very much for walking us through them. All right. Next item of business is the spotlight on our summer support for students. And we've got a few guests here. Would you care to introduce them to the board, Dr. Flesher?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I welcome both Ms. Tiffany Clifton and Mr. Jeff Amon to the board table for a spotlight on summer school program expansion as a result of COVID-19. The pandemic has been extremely challenging for everyone to navigate and been very disruptive to education. As a result, we have been ramping up our summer learning supports for this summer for students with both unfinished learning and those who need mental health support throughout this summer. We have had teams of Orono staff planning this expanded programming for our preschoolers or high school students, and you're going to hear about that tonight. We are braiding federal, state, and local resources to make this programming possible for our students. We're also very pleased to hear a little bit about this tonight, that our grad rate has been the highest ever it's actually just remained stable, which is the highest, but during the most disrupted period we've ever seen in public education. And we're very proud of that, and we thank you all to all teachers, to administrators who support students, as well as school counselors and support staff who connect students to what they need each day and make sure that students obtain a diploma. I thank Mr. Amon and Ms. Clifton as they highlight a strong example of adaptation and support for students, and turn it over to them.
Great, good evening. I'd like to kick the evening off by sharing one of my absolutely favorite Orono traditions. To me, each summer begins the night of graduation. It is the perfect summer kickoff. The graduates are feeling ecstatic and free. The teachers have survived another year and are feeling particularly joyful. For families, it's an evening they've been looking forward to for nearly 2 decades. And the absolute best part comes at the very end. And no, I'm not talking about the Scottish bagpiper. Well, that is also a great tradition. For me, the best part has always been the processional when the staff and school board members create a tunnel and cheer as the grads make their final exit on the track. The jitters of the momentous occasion give way to unbridled joy, and it is so evident in the seniors' faces. Such an accomplishment and such a memorable evening after 4 years of hard work and memories. And through the hard work of the seniors and the support of our faculty and staff, nearly all of our seniors are able to make that memorable walk each year. I'd like to draw your attention to our graduation rate from the past 8 years. 5 years. But wow. Equally great, yeah. We have had tremendous success supporting students of reaching that ultimate goal of high school graduation. We were at a 96% graduation rate through 2017, then have hit the 97% mark for the last 4 years. This is even more remarkable given the challenge of supporting students through the difficulties of distance learning during COVID-19, especially the classes of 2020 and 2021. As you can see from the graph, the Minnesota state average has stayed around 83 to 84%, and nearly all of our neighboring districts saw declines, some fairly substantial, as a result of the pandemic. In addition to our numbers from last year, 2021, 2 seniors who did not complete the requirements for graduation were able to finish their missing credits in the past year thanks to our efforts at credit recovery. One innovation we've relied on to help students stay on track to graduate was the use of the Edmentum Coursework. Edmentum is an online learning system that allows us to set students up to take online courses in a number of different subject areas. We were able to offer the course as is or to tailor the course to meet a particular student's needs. We leaned into this tool heavily in spring of 2021 as we planned our first ever credit recovery summer clinic. I've already reported on Orono Summer Academy to you all last fall. I simply wanted to update you all on recent developments and shed light on how this technology tool is allowing us to individualize instruction and support our students who need it most. We created Orono Summer Academy last year to support students who had fallen behind as a result of the challenges created by the COVID pandemic. The courses in Edmentum can be tailor-made to mirror our offerings at Orono High School. In a credit recovery situation, we are able to build a course for a student who may have made it halfway through a course before failing. This allows for an ideal student experience in which the student must only make up the units they fail to demonstrate mastery in. This was hugely helpful for students who had makeup work in multiple courses and kept them from getting overwhelmed. Further, it allows us to support students all the way to graduation as students can work to complete credits and stay on track to graduate. We witnessed this past year as a couple of students that I mentioned earlier were able to successfully complete the requirements for an Orono High School diploma on an altered timeline. Despite their personal challenges, and thanks to Edmentum Coursework and supportive teachers and counselors, they are able to see it through to the end and earn their diploma. Additionally, our high school counselors have been using Edmentum Coursework to allow students to recover credit during the school year when their schedules allow. Looking ahead to this summer, we will once again be offering Orono Summer Academy. All students who have failed a course this year or are otherwise behind schedule to graduate will be invited. Summer Academy will take place at the high school from June 13th to the 24th, Monday through Friday, each day from 9 to 3:30 p.m. Once again, courses will be tailor-made for students with just the units they still must master based on teacher feedback or a course pretest. Once the student has completed the missing units, they can move on to their remaining credits. Once they've completed all their courses, they are dismissed from the program and can begin their summer vacation. Last year, the looming vacation proved to be extremely motivational for students, and they finished their coursework as quickly as possible. We are looking forward to providing this program to our students again this year so that they have a chance to end the year with a win and stay on track to graduate on time. Summer can be a great time to offer additional supports to our students who need it most, and this is one way. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Tiffany Clifton, Director of Community Education, to talk about other exciting student supports happening this summer.
Tiffany, as you get started, could I interrupt for 1 second and just say that in terms of the graduation rate, 97% need to be aware that 3% of our students continue on in transition. So I wish that was included, because it makes it look like 3% of our students didn't graduate, and that's not true. They're continuing on. But the students that we know that were behind in credits, Jeff and his team have done an incredible job on helping them finish.
So Jeff, the ones that participate in the Summer Academy, do they get included in the 97%? Are they as graduated, quote, on time, or are they part of the people that are in transition?
So the vast majority of our enrollees in Summer Academy are not seniors, so it's
Okay.
freshmen through juniors. Last year we did have 2 seniors that enrolled, but they weren't able to finish in time, and they were the ones that finished later on in the school year. One completed their coursework in the fall and the other in the spring.
So does that get into that 97, or were they outside that night? Those
They're
two?
outside of that 97%.
Okay.
There is a 5-year rate and a 6-year rate, so they eventually get included, but they're not included. What we're reporting there is the 4-year rate.
Okay.
And would a student that goes into the transition program and completes that, would they be then considered to have graduated?
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
So what happens though, it's, most transition programs are somewhere between 1 to 3 years though.
Right.
So if they stay all 3 years, then, but eventually they are graduated and given their diploma. It's a strange piece of the law that they're not considered,
Right,
to be graduated at some point. They truly are.
Yeah.
But it just not in the report, the numbers that get reported out.
Do they walk with their class?
Always.
That's what I thought.
Yep, always.
So we get those kids walking, the transition kids
Absolutely,
walking.
and graduation is celebrated. We just are, in order for there to be funding for transition, then we hold the diploma but they walk and have the same graduation experience.
I really want to congratulate you. I mean, the fact that we know student by student who those people are, and we're working with every one of them, I think that's really impressive versus, well, there's just kids that didn't graduate, and
Yeah.
that's too bad. I'm just really impressed that we are focusing on every one of those kids. That's really great.
we can truly say that nobody's falling between the cracks as a result of that, so thank you for your work.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for having me. I am going to pivot and talk a little bit about our youngest learners coming into to our education system here. And thank you, Mr. Chair, Dr. Fletcher, and the board for having me. So new this summer, we have some additional federal funding programs that I am excited to be talking to you guys about today. So we have one, our Great Start for K for our pre-K program, our early learning programs, our mental health support programs, and our expanded summer learning programs, and I will get into each one of those as we move forward. I do want to indicate that this is a one-time funding opportunity. So we, some of these did roll over from last year, and this is all due to the pandemic. So we have taken full advantage of every opportunity to bring in additional dollars to the district and utilize those to support our students in every way. And all of these funds must be spent by this summer, so we're getting really creative to make sure that we're using every dollar to put back into the community for our kids. So the first program that I'd love to speak with you about this evening is our Great Start for K. So this is one program that we did run last summer. The intent of this is for incoming kindergarten students that will be going to kindergarten in the fall that that are eligible to receive additional preschool supports. And so we have 100 plus instructional hours for these students to participate in different kindergarten readiness. So everything from our literacy and our math to even understanding organizational skills and your backpack and understanding how to eat in a lunchroom setting and of course connecting with our peers. So we're really excited about all the opportunities that we can provide. The grant for this for eligible children is free for the whole 100 plus instructional hours that runs throughout the summer. Last year, we were not able to provide transportation. This year, we're very excited that we are providing transportation, so there are no barriers to any of our little ones that need to be participating in this program, and we have identified a few that will be able to take this or to come to our program because we are removing that transportation barrier. So we're very excited. Some of the students that we've identified that are going to be coming to this free program because of the transportation have not been able to participate in any early learning. And so for them to be able to experience 100 hours of instructional time with preschool before coming into kindergarten is just really going to set them off on the right foot, and we're really excited about providing that opportunity.
Tiffany, could I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
How does a kid qualify for this?
So any family can participate in these classes if they want for a fee base as well, but the grant, the eligibility is based on, there's a couple of different factors. So if you are an English language learner, if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, if you are an ECSE. So there's a variety of roles that is determined by MDE when they put the grant out. And so when we received the grant last year, it was to service at least 6 students. Last year we serviced 4, and we needed to service 2 this summer. We've already identified 3, if not more. So we will fully meet the needs of the grant and hope to take in as many kids as we can. Additionally, we are planning to use some of these funds to support our nature-based learning. So the backyard that Ms. Wallander indicated earlier, the Discovery Center backyard is our outdoor learning area that we're very excited to be able to engage early learners in the outdoors. And so we will be using some of these funds to expand on our materials and manipulatives for students to be able to play this summer and beyond to really enhance our programming that way. And then we will have Ready Set Kindergarten again, and this year we will be at Schumann, so the children will be able to be in their environment that they'll be in the fall, so we're very excited about that. Next, I'd like to pivot to our mental health support. So this is another stream of federal dollars that we are receiving in, and with this, we are really excited about our partnership with Relate Counseling. The purpose of this grant is to provide additional supports regarding mental health and behavioral for students, as well as provide community outreach to engage the community. And so with our new Relate partnership is new this year, and we are able to provide 10 weeks of therapeutic camps throughout the summer, and that is broken out by ages K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8. So we are spanning all the way through K-8, and these will be free for students. There will be 2 Relate therapists that will be leading these camps and really focusing on understanding our emotions and providing tools to help us work through our emotions. The additional partnership with Relate is the on-site therapist that we will have access to for 8 hours a week for all of our summer programming. This is something new we've never had access to before in the summer, so they'll be available for consultation and observation, and we're really excited to be able to utilize Relate and that partnership with this. Additionally, we will be hiring 2 behavior interventionists to support students both in the classroom and planning for success in all of our programs. So we're really excited to have additional supports there. We have the position open, and we actually have some really amazing qualified internal candidates that will be, once we finalize the process, but would be a great fit to continue supporting students that they know during the summer from the school year.
So to me, they relate normally, so this goes from K to 8.
Mhm.
This is amazing.
Yeah, we're very, very excited.
And how many students do you expect to participate in this?
Yeah, so we're planning to cap each camp at about 10 per camp. So we'll have 10 camps, or 10 weeks of therapeutic camps. And so hopefully we actually plan to have enrollment and mailings go out this week. And so with that, we could have up to 100 kids. You know, some kids could take more than one camp if they want to. And we did talk with Relate if there are students that would be in multiple camps and they're able to modify it enough so that it isn't redundant information for students in each camp.
And is this self-selection, or are you working with parents to encourage them to do this?
A little bit of both. We are, we, have had some great relationships with our special ed and some of our school staff that we know that there are some students that we will talk with families and say this is a great opportunity and we encourage you to enroll, but it will be open to the public, and it's a free opportunity, and so we'll see how enrollment comes in.
Sorry. Do you think that we're doing a better job of identifying people and getting them the help they need, or do you think a lot of this is related to COVID, or do you have an opinion about, are we still dealing with the aftermath of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. From my personal opinion, I definitely think that the disruption of COVID is something that we're still facing, and we're seeing an uptick. A lot of, if you think of, even from a behavioral perspective, the engagement, the peer-on-peer and the social relationships and the social settings is something that students haven't had the opportunity to engage in the last 2 years like they normally would. So by providing multiple opportunities for kids to connect with one another and be in different social settings and learn different skills to connect and play with one another and work through some of that, I think is a wonderful opportunity that we can provide this summer to hopefully transfer into the school year as well. Then additionally, we will be doing the Spartan Express again this year, which is our bus, our community ed mini bus that we take out into the community for that community engagement. It's going to be at a variety of locations from Baker Park, Community Meals with Trinity again. I will have a full report on that later. But we will be using some of these funds to support the supplies and vendors needed to bring that into the community. Last year we had music and art and different fun activities that are for free for community members, and bringing it to them so they don't have the transportation barrier of getting necessarily to our campus. So really making sure we're getting out in the community. And then we will be doing professional development for our summer staff in partnership with Relate as well as Behavior Language to really skill up our team to make sure that they are able to support all student success. And then finally, our Expand Summer Learning is a new grant that, in addition to our very robust targeted services offerings that we do, this money will be able to support that, as well as an additional reading camp with our reading interventionist. And so we're very, very excited. We've been working with Beth Pearson, who's been amazing in planning this. And so we have 8 of our staff, 1 reading specialist and 1 classroom teacher, for 4-week camps that will run Monday through Thursday, half days. And these are identified, the students that will be invited again this week. So a lot of exciting stuff coming out this week. Were identified with the reading interventionists that are already working with these families. So it's going to be at the later part of summer. It will be in the end of July and early August for 4 weeks. And the timing is really important and wonderful because it will be closer to the next school year, so it will get them ready, kicked up to really pick up, start strong at the next, as we go into the next school year. Additionally, we will be doing transportation again this year for our targeted services, as we always have, but with this additional money, we're adding 2 weeks to support this additional camp. So there will be no barrier for any student that wants to come and has been identified to come to this additional reading camp. And it's providing an additional 2 weeks of learning and connection for our students.
What grades are qualifying for the reading camp?
K-5.
Wow, this is just awesome.
Wonderful.
It's very exciting.
And are these, is this an invitation only?
This will be an invitation only
Okay.
for the reading camps, just as targeted services as
So a
well.
lot of these kids are normally our targeted services kids,
Correct.
or our Sparks kids.
Well, some, yeah, little,
The students that have received reading intervention services, primarily the target, so that's a wide range population. And this will allow them to work with, if you think about it, a reading interventionist and a classroom teacher for half days for a month. That's a lot of, if there's lost learning, there's a lot of learning right there. I mean, very intense services.
Yeah, so it seems like you've been exceedingly successful getting grants for these programs. Is that because more grants are available, or have we just gotten smarter about getting that grant money, or is it a little bit of both?
Some of both. It's braiding funding between federal, state, and local funding. And some of it has been because of pandemic. There are funds through the state of Minnesota and the federal government to support lost learning and to support mental health. But it really is then using other funding that we've had and braiding that together and thinking and dreaming with our teachers to say, what do kids need? And then identifying how could we meet their needs.
Just wonderful work.
Tiffany, when you, as an invitation-only program, do you get, how close to 100% uptake do you get? I mean, do the families go, hey, I get it, and my kid's gonna go because, or do you get resistance?
it's a great question. So when we look at our targeted services trend, similar, which is a similar invitation only, we're just reviewing that, and we're at about 80% that actually come and attend some portion, which is pretty substantial. So, you're not going to get everyone. And that was actually a question with this 4-week camp of, do we make it mandatory to come to all, or can they pick and choose? And what we don't want to do, we want to get children in and learning and reading and having that time. And so our goal is that, yes, we'd love for you to come for that full month. If there is a date conflict, please let us know, and we're happy to work with it. But the program itself is for that month. So with the encouragement to really come and attend and make the most out of this amazing opportunity.
A lot of the families that have reading intervention services are looking for summer reading support. And so they're working with reading interventionists or classroom teachers already asking. So I think there'll be high interest.
Yes, I anticipate, especially with this additional 4-week program, I anticipate a lot of excitement.
Well, could we get an update about that? Like what the uptick is, and so it doesn't require another presentation?
Yeah.
You'll be busy, but like, it'd be great to just, so we know the retention rate on those invitations.
Yes, I would be happy to provide updates throughout the summer, absolutely.
Awesome work. Thank you so much. This is really exciting.
Thank you very much. And then I would just wanted to end, Jeff and I, as we were reflecting, that we know that there was a lot of disruption with the past couple of years in the pandemic, and that the effects of that are we're still seeing some of the effects of that. And so we're very excited to be able to utilize every dollar that we can to think, dream, and come up with new programming and opportunities for our students in the off-school times, so that they're even more ready when they come back for school next fall. So thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Appreciate it. All right. Anything, any other new business to come before the meeting? I don't believe that there is, so I will just point your attention to the fact that our next regular meeting will be held Monday, May 9th, back here at the district office conference room, 7 p.m. And we will adjourn to a workshop session for the purpose of a community education report. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries and we are adjourned at 7:55.